The Alaskan wilderness stretched endlessly around them, a vast frozen silence broken only by the whispering wind through the pines. James and his fiancée Claire sat beside their small fire, bundled in thick jackets, sipping the last of their coffee. The night was settling in fast, the temperature dropping. "Tomorrow we hike back to the truck," James said, stretching. "Then a hot shower and a real bed." Claire smiled, rubbing her hands together for warmth. "I love this, but I won't say no to indoor plumbing." A distant snap echoed through the woods. Claire stiffened. "Did you hear that?" James turned his head, listening. The sound came again, heavier this time, slow, deliberate. Something big was moving through the trees, then the deep guttural huff of an animal. James's blood turned to ice. "Bear," he whispered. Claire's breath hitched. She gripped James's arm, her fingers digging into his jacket. The firelight flickered, casting wild shadows against the trees. Then from the blackness, the bear emerged. A grizzly. Easily 9 feet tall on its hind legs, its fur matted with dirt and patches of dried blood. Its eyes gleamed in the dim light, locked onto them with a hunger that churned James's stomach. This wasn't just a bear. It was hunting. "Don't run," James whispered, barely moving his lips. "Slowly. Move toward the tent." Claire nodded, her breath shaky, her hand still gripping his arm. They stepped back, inch by inch. Then the fire popped. A single ember shot up. The bear charged. James barely had time to shove Claire aside before it was on him. The force of it was like getting hit by a truck. His ribs cracked as he was flung to the ground. Claws raked across his shoulder, tearing through fabric and skin like paper. Claire screamed. James rolled just as the bear's teeth snapped inches from his face. He reached blindly, his hand grasping a jagged rock. Without thinking, he swung. The rock cracked against the bear's muzzle. It reared back with a snarl, blood dripping from its snout. But it wasn't done. "Claire! Gun!" James wheezed. She scrambled toward their tent, tearing it open. The bear roared and turned toward her. "No!" James forced himself up, staggering, blood pouring from his shoulder. Claire fumbled with the rifle, hands shaking. The bear lunged. James screamed and ran at it, his knife drawn. He plunged the blade into its side, just behind the ribs. The bear roared in agony, swiping blindly. The force sent James flying again, landing hard on his back. A single shot rang out. The bear staggered. Another shot. Claire fired again, tears streaming down her face. The grizzly let out a final guttural breath and collapsed, its massive body shaking the ground. Silence. James groaned, coughing. Claire was beside him in seconds, pressing her hands against his wounds. "Stay with me," she whispered, her voice breaking. He tried to laugh, but it hurt too much. "I told you this trip would be an adventure." Tears mixed with laughter as sirens finally echoed in the distance. Rescuers who had heard the gunshots, they survived. But the memory of teeth in the dark would haunt them forever.